coming to that comfortable seat here this evening. And maybe there isn't a comfortable seat and you would prefer to be resting on your back, resting on your side. And as you're finding that seat for yourself, give yourself a little moment to wiggle in, to move whatever makes sense so it can maybe have a bit of more ease in that particular area. We can always use that settling breath, that nice deep inhale and that longer exhale, settling into the weight where you're connected to the floor. Maybe a few more of those breaths, a deep inhale and a longer exhale. And then letting the body now breathe itself, no effort to the breath. Take a moment just to notice what's around you, maybe in front and back of you, even underneath and above you. And then allowing your eyes to stay open if that feels more comfortable, or closed. And we begin to tune into that physical body. So turning our gaze inward. Noticing for yourself if there's anything that's calling your attention. Maybe it's thoughts, maybe it's sensation in the body, perhaps even emotion. And if we can, we notice those sensations, thoughts, or emotions with compassion. Trying to let go of the self-judgment that might be present. We're making note, and without really an agenda. We're not necessarily trying to change it. We're noticing it. Maybe we're naming it. Perhaps we're exploring it with curiosity. And knowing that for now, it is. Nothing necessarily has to change about it. And then without really changing breath, we're going to notice breath. Noticing some of those physical qualities. Perhaps we begin with, where's the breath traveling? So as we inhale, is it expanding into a particular area? As we exhale, is there a sense of ease or release that accompanies that exhale? Maybe you like to notice sound. Is there sound to your breath? Temperature to your breath? Rhythm? Picking one of those to notice as you're breathing here, nice and easy, nice and normal, no effort to breath. A few moments to notice one of those qualities. And for now, letting that notice go. Breathing nice and normal, maybe taking that deeper inhale, that longer exhale to prepare ourselves for our practice tonight. We're going to be shifting into tabletop. We're going to do some standing poses. We'll come back down for a little bit of wind down this evening. So when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees, We may notice that this bugs the wrists, and if that's the case, you can always go up on fists and give yourself a little wag of the tail. So I'm going to start to stretch from side to side, and my wag might be pretty small. It might be a little bit bigger. Just wagging tail from side to side. And maybe head gets involved. So we might be moving that head from side to side, or shaking it no, or nodding it yes. A little loosening up here if you've spent the day in a seated position. And then we'll come on back through center, beginning with cat-cow, that nice warm up for that back. Let the belly drop. Look at the top of your mat here for just a moment. And we're going to stay there with that belly dropping, a little bit of expansion, pushing the mat away from us, just stretching through that front side body. And then with your next exhale, we'll push to round. We'll stay there for just a couple of breaths. Deep inhales and exhales, pushing that mat away from you, expanding the back space of the heart as if it could reach the ceiling. And then we'll start to move with breath. So our next inhale, we drop the belly. We might look at the top of the mat or even the front of the room. Or we'll exhale to press to round, tucking the tailbone, nodding the chin, looking through those knees. Inhaling to drop belly, looking up. Exhaling, press to round. 3 more with your own breath. So if I'm going too fast or too slow, knowing that as we open that belly, it's an inhale, and as we contract the belly, it's an exhale. 2 more. With this last one, we're going to begin to make it a little more mobile. So as I exhale next, I'm going to round my back, push my tailbone back towards my heels. And as I inhale, it's almost like I'm pulling myself forward, my heart right through my elbows and thumbs, dropping belly, looking at top of mat. We're going to press to round, letting the hips come back to the heels. Less range of motion, totally fine if we're minding those knees. Drop belly, draw heart through the thumbs. Exhale, press to round. Inhale, pulling yourself through. So you want to feel like your arms are working a little bit there to get yourself through. Let's do 2 more. Exhale, press back. Inhale to pull yourself through. And last time, exhale to press back. Inhale to pull yourself through. Let's take your right knee. Your right knee is going to come forward. I'm going to flip around here. Right knee comes forward, and we're going to stair step up. And that's always a tricky little balance. So just a reminder that front leg rules the balance. It might need to work its way to the outside of the mat. From here carefully, so we're paying attention to knees, we're bending in and out. So we're increasing the stretch through that left thigh. If this bugs your knees, don't go with that movement, letting yourself just stay nice and stable with a tiny tailbone tuck. We'll do 1 more bending in. And then coming back through, so knee is stacked right on top of ankle, we're going to reach that left arm up towards the ceiling. Now I'm going to bend over to my right side to that knee and then rise back up through center. So exhaling over and inhaling back up. A bigger stretch for that side. Arm is reaching strong. A reminder, if reaching overhead is tricky, we can use that cactus arm bent elbow instead. Let's do 1 last time, reaching up and over. We'll come back through center. Some of us are going to stay put here and tuck tailbone. Some of us might come to frame the foot. A few of us might even come in and walk that leg back. There may be one of you who comes all the way down to elbows. We're going to pause here, any level that you are at, and just breathe into the weight. We're letting the weight of the pelvis, the front of that left thigh, sink a little bit deeper into the mat. This longer held stretch to open up a little bit of the crease of the thigh and those 4 muscles that make up the front of the thigh. 2 more breaths here. And when you're ready, bring that front leg back, both knees back on the floor. We wag our tail again. We're going to switch sides. So this time that left foot comes forward. Carefully stair step up, move that front knee out if you need to for a little bit more balance, and then bending in and out of knee if both knees agree. Not too deep with that knee. We're going to be careful here as we're moving through that joint. Just trying to increase a little bit of the stretch. We'll do one more. And then we're going to find ourselves landing with knee right above ankle. So if you want, we reach that right arm up. It can also be in a cactus arm. And we begin to reach over to stretch that right side body by reaching left. And then we inhale to come back through center. Exhale to reach over. And inhale through center. Exhaling over. And inhale, two more. Exhale over. And inhale one last time. Exhale over. Inhale, come back through center. Some of us are going to stay put right here with a little tailbone tuck. Some of us are going to frame that foot, may even come inside. We might need to walk that right leg back. About 6 breaths here just to settle into the weight of the front of that thigh. That pelvis is heavy and aiming closer towards the floor. Reminding ourselves too, we can always go up on fists. If this bugs your palms, you might be on elbows for a little deeper stretch. Breathing fully here. 2 more breaths. And then we'll swing that knee around to join the other. And this time, we're going to walk our hands a little further forward. So if it doesn't bug shoulders, we'll drop that forehead to the floor. If it does bug shoulders, stay elbows in a little bit closer, soft bend elbows, and drop the head. So we're increasing the stretch here through those arms. If you've taken yin with me, this looks a lot like melting heart. We're not going to be here for 5 minutes, but it's a nice stretch for the arms and for the side body. One more breath. And then we'll rise up. And we're going to come into a kneeling position. We're almost ready to get off of these knees. I'm going to turn and face you so you can see where we're headed. So I'm kneeling, long torso. I'm going to send my right leg out. And some of us might be able to turn those toes. Some of us might prefer toes pointing out. And wherever you are, we're really focusing here on this straight leg. Reaching arms out. I'm going to ask you to turn a dial. So we're just going to start to turn one direction and then the other, warming up a little bit of those shoulders, warming up wrists. And then when you're ready, we're going to take that right hand. It comes just inside the knee. Left hand has lots of choices behind the back, reaching low. It might reach all the way up as we begin to stretch over towards that right foot. Now, if it bugs your neck, let the neck look down. There's less tension when we're looking and gazing down. If this is very intense through inner thighs, soften your knee. Same move, softer knee. 2 more breaths here. The side body stretch, much like our triangle when we're standing nice and tall. And then when we're ready, we're going to counterbalance it. So we land on the left hand and we start some pretty big circles. If circles are not recommended, finding a way to release that shoulder. Maybe it's a shoulder shrug. Maybe it's hand behind the back. Go ahead, reverse your circle for 3 in the opposite direction. Still lengthening through that side body. And then we're going to let that last one bring us right up. This is a balance. We're going to bring that knee in and we kick out the opposite leg. Left leg kicks out. It can be planted or pointed. It can be a nice soft knee. We go back to dialing. So turning that dial, stretching that entire arm while strengthening the top of those shoulders. When you're ready, left hand comes inside. Right hand has lots of choices, reaching in a way that makes sense for you. Maybe hands behind the back, maybe gaze is towards the floor. Fully breathing here. We'll rise up, we'll counterbalance it so we land on that right hand or fist. 3 big circles, if that makes sense for you. If it doesn't, finding another way that releases the shoulder, reverse that circle. 3 in this direction. And then we're going to let that last one propel us up. Let's bring the knee in, and we're going to sit back in child's pose. Your version of child's pose. So maybe this doesn't suit knees and back. You might be on elbows, knees, dropping head to look through those knees. Pausing to fully breathe here. Deep inhales and exhales. With your next inhale, we'll rise up. We're going to come on up to stand. So maybe we tuck those toes and walk those feet to hands. Maybe it's easier for you to simply come on up and stand without all of that hip compression. Finding that space here where we have about 3 fingers between our big toes. And tonight we're going to roll inside and out about 2 or 3 times, and then rocking forward and back. Go ahead and land on the feet. If you can, pull the toes off. And from there, we're going to try to land the toes from the pinky toe all the way to the big toe. Lifting toes, landing pinky toe all the way to big toe. One more time, lifting toes and landing pinky toe to big toe. See if you locked out those knees. Can you micro soften knees? Can we let go of some of the tension in the low back? Shoulders draw up, back and down, palms face forward or towards the thighs. What works best for you? Where do your shoulders feel most released? Just a moment to pause here to notice what's present for you. Noticing sensation, or maybe we're back to this idea of noticing some thoughts or emotions associated with that noticing, and noticing with curiosity. One more deep inhale and exhale. I'm going to turn sideways. We'll bring hands to heart. We'll move through our little halfway lift here. So when you're ready, fingertips reach up. As we exhale, arms reach wide, rounded back, soft knees for most of us. A few of us might be in a swan dive. We're going to inhale, press into shins or thighs. Exhale, release back down. This nice way to treat the back as we get ready to warm up for standing poses. Arms reach up towards the ceiling. Hands come back to heart. Let's do 3 more of those. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, soft bent knees as we dive forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release back down. Arms reach wide as we inhale, rise back up. Exhale, hands to heart. 2 more. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, soft bent knees, reaching wide or swan dive. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release back down. Arms reach wide as we inhale to rise back up. Exhale, hands to heart last time. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, soft bent knees as we dive forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release back down, arms reach wide as we rise back up. Hands come to heart, and we take a big step back with that right foot. Big step back with that right foot. Hips are going to aim forward. So we're going to bend into that front knee, hips aiming forward. For now, taking hands behind the back. So I might clasp hands or fingers, wrists, or elbows. Maybe a little bit of bending in and out of that knee to see how it's going to track and feel. And then tucking tailbone. That tailbone tuck increases a little bit of that stretch, strengthens the legs. We're going right into a little bit of core warm up here. So I'm going to take an angle. My hands are behind, and I'm thinking about my head and my heel being in the same line. And pausing here to notice how this feels. If you could draw your belly in a little bit deeper. Could you think about solidifying those legs as if you were spreading your mat from front to back? If you want to invigorate this, we reach arms overhead into warrior one arms. Now, the further those hands get away from our pelvis, the harder it is on the back. So if you're working with back stuff, keeping hands behind that low back, a safer place to be. One more breath here. We'll rise up. Everybody returns hands to the side. And when you're ready, lengthening fingertips up into your warrior one or a modified warrior one with cactus arms. Finding that space. And I do it all the time too. I just caught myself bringing that knee back over the ankle. I like to come out of that front leg. It's easier that way, right? 2 more deep inhales and exhales. Stretching through that front hip structure. We're going to bring hands to heart, one big step forward. That's always a big balance, bringing that foot forward. This time we step back with the left foot. I'm going to turn just so you can see that. We're going to shift those hips forward. Hands slide either behind the back, grabbing hold, fingers, wrists, elbows. We give ourselves a little bit of bending in and out of that front knee. And then the knee lands right over the ankle, and we find that slow tilt forward where our head and our heel are all on the same line. Invigorating if you choose by reaching arms overhead, protecting back with hands behind the back. That also opens up shoulders. So breathing fully, choosing where you want to be, and holding for one more breath. When you're ready, we're going to rise up, hands to heart, and then finding warrior one arms or bent elbow cactus arms. Noticing if you came out of that front knee, are you still spreading your mat from front to back? Lots of strength in those legs. One more breath here. We're going to bring our hands to heart. We take a big step forward. Shake it all out. We're going to move a little bit through a flow here. I'm going to switch sides. Hands come to heart. Well, inhale, reach fingertips up. Exhale, soft bent knees. This time we're going to place hands on the mat. We're going to step, hop, walk, or jump back into our plank, and we're going to rock back and forth. So I'm rocking from down dog into plank. It's okay to be down on knees, much like we did our cat-cow, where we're rocking forward and back. It's also okay to be down on elbows, especially if this bugs your wrists. So plank or a version of plank to down dog, this rocking. That nice rocking sensation starts to stimulate something in your inner ear that creates a relaxation response. When you're ready, land in plank. If you want to go full, you can go fully down in chaturanga. You're going to see me drop knees. I'm going to lower to the earth. Staying put here, head is hovering, feet are on, and belly is pulling away from the mat. I do have quite a lot of weight in my palms right now. I'm supporting this mini back bend with my hands. We're going to increase that intensity if we choose here in just a moment. But we're taking inventory. Is this okay on back? Is it okay on shoulders and neck? Is there anything you could adjust or make different that helps you feel a little bit better in this back bend? Holding here, if we can, we hold the height, but we change the hands. Hands swing down by your side and they hover. So my upper body is hovering, my head, nose pointed towards the mat to protect my neck. Belly is drawing up away from the mat, and fingertips are reaching while my feet stay on the floor. Longer back bend, invigorating our energy, recharging, not so much like we're going to have caffeine and be awake all night, but energy reserves. One more breath. And then we'll send hands back underneath our shoulders, pressing back into your version of child's pose. Breathing fully here. Two more breaths, stretching that back. We'll rise up to tabletop. We'll tuck our toes, press back into down dog. Pausing here, soft knees for those hamstrings, for that low back. We're going to take a big step forward with our right foot. That might mean for some of you, you actually come down to the knee and swing it around. Some of us will be able to thread it on through. When you're ready, we're going to rise up. Go careful here. Hands to hips to make sure hips are forward. My balance is a little bit tricky. Pausing here, we begin to straighten that front leg. So now maybe both legs are straight. Walking that front foot out if balance feels really challenging. Both legs straight, we come back to our angle. If this stance is too wide, take a step forward and shorten it. That'll help with tight hamstrings and tight calves. Back to this core, tailbone tuck in, belly drawing in, big stretch for both legs. If you feel like there's more to be gained, you're welcome to dip the head below the heart. And in that case, you might clasp hands and reach arms up towards the ceiling. That does not have to be the space that you go. We can stay put at an angle, hands on hips, invigorating legs and our core. When you're ready, bend into that front knee, bring your hands down. We're going to step back into our down dog. Let's do 3 full breaths here. Any version, you might even at this point be down in child's pose, and that's okay. We're responding to what your body needs today. We get ready now to bring that left foot forward. That might mean, again, that knee comes down and you swing some stuff around. When you're ready, rise up with a bent knee, hands on hips. We can shorten the stance here if we need to. We're going to straighten that front leg. We come to an angle. From there, if there's more to be gained for you, you can dip the head. We can interlace fingers and reach arms up towards ceiling. If this is super challenging for balance, keeping the head above heart. That always makes balance slightly easier. We don't change the fluid then in the ears. One more breath here. We'll all bend into the knee. We come down to hands. We press back, but this time we come down into our tabletop position. We're going to thread the needle. So take the right arm, reaching it up towards the ceiling. We're going to dive underneath. We try to rest that right cheek, right shoulder. The opposite hand can reach towards the top of your mat. It can reach towards the ceiling. If you're not working with neck stuff, it can slide behind the back. Two more breaths here. We'll slide that left hand in front of the face, right arm reaches back up towards the ceiling. And then it comes on back down. We're going to switch sides. So this time, left arm reaches up. We dive underneath, resting on left shoulder and left cheek. That right arm moves to the appropriate place, maybe the top of the mat, maybe towards the ceiling, or it slides behind the back. Two more breaths here. We'll slide that right hand in front of the face, twisting out, reaching the left arm towards the ceiling, and then hands come back. We're going to shift into a seated position. So a few of you might cross the ankles and just glide right on over. Most of us are going to take those feet and swing them around. I'm going to turn and face you. So nice long legs, and long legs are relative here. We might not be able to get legs straight. We might need to soften knees in order to get a long, tall torso. So deciding where you want to be here with those legs, lengthening through. And I'm going to ask you to bring your hands down by your side. So we're tucking them in right at hips. And for some of us, the arm length, it does not allow for that. So we might not reach the floor. You might just rest fingertips. That's okay. If you've gotten those hands to the floor, give them just a bit of a push to open the heart. Those of you who might have a little difficult time reaching the floor, you might walk your fingertips a little further back. It's just about length of arm and torso. I'm very short-waisted, and I've got those long arms. Fully breathing here. Legs are active. So is that length of the spine. I'm trying to reach the top of my head towards the ceiling. One more breath here, a modified staff pose. And then we're going to release into your version of a forward fold. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my head. Those of you with bent knees, leaving knees bent, that's going to be a lot more kind to that low back. If we have those straight legs, a few of you might reach towards those feet. You might reach to slide hands behind those calves. Where can you go here to find that low back release without creating low back pain? That's where soft bent knees can come in. Two more breaths here. We're going to rise up and just counter that for a moment. Sliding hands behind you, making sure fingertips are to the sides of your mat. Please make sure they aren't facing backwards. To the sides of your mat. We press in, let the legs go, give them a little windshield wiper, opening that heart space. We're going to do a little bit of a seated twist here that has a yen taste to it without holding it for a yen amount of time. So I'm going to be mirroring you. I'm leaning back on my hands. I'm going to bend and soften my knees. I'm dropping my knees to the right side. So over towards the lotus side of the room is the right side. We're going to take this top leg and send it back. We'll give it a nice little twist. Some of us are going to stay up on palms. Some of us might come down to elbows. A few of us might make it down to the floor. I'm going to go right at that sort of mid-level elbows. Now, if I don't feel much stretch through this front of the left thigh, I'm going to see if I can sneak it back just a little bit further. And breathing here. This deer pose without the yen hold. This is one you can hold up to 5 minutes. A really nice one to hold up to 5 minutes. You can tuck pillows along that torso to help you relax. Just 2 more breaths here for us. We're going to rise up to hands to come out of the twist. We sneak those feet back together. Give them a little rock side to side. Now, just fair warning, I don't know if you're having weather at your house. I'm having lots of weather at my house. I imagine we're going to hear some thunder here in a moment. So when you're ready, go ahead, drop knees over to the left side. We're going to take this right leg to walk back now. And when you're ready, we turn away from the lotus side of the room. We turn over towards that left side, palms, elbows, or maybe down to torso. Let's do 6 to 8 breaths here. Deep inhales and exhales. Finding some stretch through the front of that right thigh. If not, we sneak it back a little bit further. One more breath. And we'll go ahead, we'll rise up and we'll untwist, sending our feet out in front of us. Give your knees a nice little rock side to side. Extending legs. I'm going to turn sideways here. So extending legs the same way we found our staff pose. So perhaps the legs are straight, perhaps those knees are soft. With those legs extended, we're going to bend one knee, and I'm going to bend it and slide it somewhere along my leg that makes sense for me. I'll flex my opposite foot and slowly fold forward. Now, I know I've got some folks on here who have hip compression. If that's the case for you, even rotating this sucker out might not feel so great. You can walk it further out and you can bend and soften this knee and round forward. So finding this space with that foot flexed that we can get one-sided hamstring stretch. I'm going to toss out one idea. If you would like to make this a little bit different, so this is my left leg, I take my left hand on the inside and I give myself a little twist towards the ceiling. Doesn't have to happen. It can help open up hips a little bit. It can help open up that low back. So we can either be folded forward or taking same arm, inside leg to twist. When you're ready, slowly slide back up, restacking your spine. Both legs go out. We give them a nice little wiggle, and we're going to switch sides. So now I'm going to bend in that left leg. I flex if it's the long leg, I flex the foot. If it's a soft knee, I'm going to leave my foot on. Finding that space where you can begin to fold forward. So as you're folding forward, we're just finding that breath, as relaxed as it can be. If you want to add a little twist, I take my right arm into the inside of my right leg, place my palm on my left knee, and twist to open up to that left side. Last 2 breaths here. And then we'll slowly rise back up. We've got a couple of choices here. We're going to go into some symmetry. Some of us might have soles of feet together, knees dropping out and coming into a forward fold. Some of us might have feet together, knees dropping out, but resting on our backs and a reclining butterfly. So if that feels better to you, to release to your back, resting down and letting knees drop out. Either place is totally fine for releasing those inner thighs. It's really just what you're needing today. We're going to be here, let's say, for about 8 more breaths, a little longer hold. One more deep inhale and exhale. If you're resting on your back, stay put there. We're about to join you. For those of us in that forward fold, slowly rise up, bring the knees together, and then we're going to gently roll ourselves back. For those of you resting on your back, draw knees into your chest. Give it a nice little rock side to side. We're going to open the outside of the hip, and there's a couple of ways to do that. So I'm going to demonstrate the first way. We'll cross the ankle up and over. We interlace the fingers behind that thigh and draw in. There may be a few of you who actually stack knees and grab hold of ankles while you flex the foot. That's if your hip structure allows. So we're either interlacing fingers and drawing in, or knees stacked, hands on ankles. They can stay close to your hips. The stretch increases as the heels travel away from the hips. Just breathing here. If you found that interlacing your fingers is a little too intense on the neck, you can always bring the foot down or place a pillow or something, blanket, maybe something off the couch behind the head to lift the head so we don't have neck strain here. Two more breaths. And we'll all take those legs and send both feet up towards the ceiling. Now, if you have really tight hamstrings or compression in the front of the hips, that straight for you looks a lot more like bent knees. Totally fine as long as we're getting some sensation of stretch. A few of us might have those straight legs. A few of you might grab hold of big toes with straight legs to increase the stretch. Where do you want to be here? When you're ready, we're going to switch sides. So now I'm either going to cross that left ankle over and drop my right heel in, interlacing my fingers behind that right thigh, or I stack my knees, grab hold of ankles, flex my feet, and draw those heels further away from my hips. Fully breathing here and relaxing as much as we can, or maybe the better phrase is to say, let yourself ease into this with the breath. Deep inhales and exhales. Two more breaths. We'll stretch legs back up towards the ceiling again. A little release for the back of the thighs. You might grab a hold of those big toes if they're accessible, drawing in just a little bit deeper. Everybody, release those feet to the floor. Arms are comfortable. I'm going to drop mine into a T just so you can see. We're going to keep this twist just nice and gentle. Both knees drop over to the right side. If you want to add a double twist to the spine, we lift the head, we look over the left shoulder, and then we rest the head. If the neck doesn't allow for that, keeping your gaze up towards the ceiling. Arms are comfy. Mine are in a T. You might be resting hands on your rib cage. You might even be reaching arms overhead. Settling in here to the weight of those knees. We're not worried if a shoulder is touching. We're not worried if knees are touching. I should mention if twists are not recommended right now, you can always be in constructive rest pose. That constructive rest pose is where knees are dropping together and feet are walking wide. I'm going to try not to sneeze here. When you're ready, knees come up through center. We're going to switch sides. Gaze comes back up to the ceiling. We'll drop knees over to the left side now. So those stacked knees dropping over. Arms are comfy. If you want to add that double twist of the spine, you lift the head, look over the right shoulder, and let the head rest. Two more breaths here. We'll come back through the center, letting gaze come back up towards the ceiling, giving yourself a gentle rock side to side. We have some choices here for our next pose. A few of you might like Happy Baby. Happy Baby is drawing those knees back towards underarms and grab and hold somewhere, maybe along those thighs, inside or outside. Happy Baby might not be accessible because of hip structure. We might simply draw knees into chest. If neither of those are very appealing, back to our constructive rest pose. Just so good for that low back. There's a big boomer. Feet are wide, knees drop towards each other. That thunderstorm is getting closer. So again, you may hear that. I'm not sure if the mic is picking it up or not. So constructive rest pose, knees, or Happy Baby. Deep breaths, fully breathing, maybe even noticing breath here. The same ideas of noticing the qualities of where it expands into and maybe releasing from. Maybe there's sound to the breath, temperature, or rhythm. We'll all bring our feet to the floor and stretch our legs long, coming out of that compression. If you can, and it feels okay, we're going to send the heels towards the corner of your mat. If you're not on a mat, think maybe about 2 feet between the heels. Arms reaching overhead if shoulders allow, if we're not working with rotator cuff stuff. And arms are reaching out into a big V. Our pinnacle, our 5-pointed star pose, taking up some space here, getting some length through all the limbs, through the torso, through the top of the head. When you're ready, we're going to begin to move into final relaxation. That space can be any space that makes sense for you here at the end of class. I'm going to come up and have a seat. This idea of finding a space of ease, a space where your body can feel the most at ease in this moment. It can be resting on your back. It can be resting on your side. Maybe it's your belly. If you've cooled down, you may want to grab a sweatshirt or your socks. As you're finding that space for yourself, give a nice deep inhale and that longer exhale to settle into the weight where you're connected to the floor. If that breath is helpful, we'll do that a couple more times. A nice deep inhale and a longer exhale. Maybe one more time, breathing deeply, exhaling fully, settling in to the weight of the body where it's connected to the floor. As we settle in here for our final relaxation, we invite the body now to breathe itself. The breath is traveling as it chooses to the spaces it chooses. No effort to breath. We invite the mind to quiet. Often that looks like longer pauses between thoughts. And we let go of this hour's doing and maybe your entire day of doing. And we invite ourselves to just simply be, to be resting here in ease, to be resting maybe even in a sense of well-being for the next few minutes, resting here in silence. Beginning to bring awareness back to the sound of my voice. Pardon me. Back to the space that you're resting in. Beginning to reawaken the body, maybe by wiggling fingers and toes, circling wrists and ankles. It might feel good to stretch arms overhead. It might feel good to draw knees into chest. And in your own way and your own time, we're going to begin to bring ourselves up into a seated position that feels comfortable to you. And as you find that comfortable seat, we just take one moment more here at the end of class to notice how you're feeling. How are you feeling in that physical body? How are you feeling in the mental and emotional bodies? If this gesture feels okay to you, we'll place palms together, resting our thumbs right in front of our hearts. We have 3 Vietnam veterans joining us tonight, and we just spent Monday honoring those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I know our friends here who are on have lost their fellow brothers. And so we want you to know that we honor them, we remember them, and we thank them for their sacrifice so that we can live in a free country. May all be well. May all have peace. And may we all be filled with compassion and loving kindness. The light in me is honored and grateful for the light in each of you. I bow to you. Namaste.